We have to be able to digest everything we put into our container, not just the food, but the conversations, the relationships, the traumas, everything. The anxiety was worse and worse and worse.
Because so many of us, men and women, don't feel safe in our bodies. And therefore, the idea of us having the capacity to feel these emotions is like, good story, bro. And this is something I've noticed in myself and in parts of my journey where my body was like, bro, why would I even let you feel that right now? You're not going to integrate it.
And I feel that this is where in our modern life we really are struggling we're so disconnected from ourselves. Because the minute that you know who you are and what you need, and you give yourself the permission to give that to yourself, to receive, I promise you that you're not sick. There's no sickness. You will not need doctors. You will not have inflammation. You will not have stagnation.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Embracing Human podcast. I am your host, Scott Stone, and today I'm here with a very special guest. Nikola Hlinkova is an Ayurvedic practitioner and a health mentor to women and an overall lovely human being full of wisdom about health and embodiment and just coming home to oneself. And I felt very called to have her on the podcast. So Nikola, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Scott. I'm so excited to be here. Really excited. So thank you.
Yeah. Nikola and I met during a coaching mastermind a couple years ago. And I had just begun to learn about the world of Ayurveda, the sister science to yoga. And I'm curious, how did you find Ayurveda? And yeah, let's start there.
Okay. Well, my journey to Ayurveda was really sort of non-traditional. It was in my 20s. I was living quite a wild life. I've always, since I was a little kid, was adventurous. I loved nature. I loved cooking things up and making little potions and pretend that I'm a witch. True story. And actually, one of my favorite ways of a play was to pretend that I'm backpacking to India and I'm going to Nepal and I'm climbing mountains and having fun in a forest. In my early 20s, I had this very mysterious disease. No one actually understood what was happening. And for about 10 years, I was having issues to digest pretty much anything in life, not just my life experiences, but also food. And that resulted in having anaphylactic shocks. And I've had countless of different tests, and I went to specialists. And, some mornings I would wake up with hives all over my body. Other days, I would wake up with my feet being swollen to a point where I couldn't walk. I had huge anxiety. I had acne absolutely everywhere. The story was always the same with the doctors. The story always was like, I'm sorry, we can't help you. It comes in such a random patterns we don't understand. Some days you can eat tomatoes and bread and meat. Other days you can't eat pretty much anything and we don't understand. So I've done the whole thing of trying to do food diaries and whatnot. And it actually escalated when I was about 27 years old. Or maybe actually, no, it was earlier, 25 years old. I was on a holidays with my then partner in Maldives. And I went into anaphylactic shock as we came back from our boat trip back to our villa. And it was a tiny little island. They had to flew a doctor over from another island in order for him to save my life. He pumped me up with 3 different injections, and he couldn't see my neck. It was basically like it was all solid. And I genuinely was scared that I'm gonna die. I genuinely thought like and I think that everyone on the island felt the same. And it was in that moment when I make a decision, and literally in that office with the doctor who said, please don't go anymore on the sun. Don't eat, like just eat plain food. You should be okay, but holiday is over. And I promised myself there and then, I'm gonna heal myself. I was like, I'm refusing to live in a fear. I was being given EpiPen at that time. They told me you can't go to restaurants, you really shouldn't be. They gave me a list of around 100 types of foods I can't eat and things that I'm allergic to or my body it's not responsive to and or is responding in such a aggressive way. And it was where really everything began. And so the first thing I did when I came back from that trip was to go to my bathroom and just threw everything out of my bathroom, like all the chemicals and everything non-organic, including my wardrobe, just went out of the door because I was like, I literally almost died.
Mm.
And yeah, I began this quest on trying to understand like there has to be someone or something who can help me because I could feel that the waves of the anxiety and the waves of like how my body, I could always feel when it was about to like kick off. I've always described it like I feel like I'm in a giant glass and everything is from a distance. And basically my body was shutting down. And unknowingly, then I tapped into some of the principles of Ayurveda. And I didn't study Ayurveda at that time, but it came to me intuitively when it comes to like starting to use cooking spices and eat very, very basic foods, and everything was cooked. I started with carrots and rice, and then I was adding more vegetables. And then I went to my first yoga class. And that's sort of like where my first journey to healing began. A few years later, when I actually started to see results, Ayurveda came into my life of like, wow, I love this medicine. I love the philosophy of it. And actually, a lot of it I already practice without knowing that these are the principle of the medicine, which was super, super weird. And then fast forward to 2015, I went to my first trip to Bali, first trip ever. And I remember doing an Ayurvedic cleanse, like a little mini panchakarma there, and how amazing and incredible I felt after that trip. And my skin cleared up, and I was being told things where it still was very sort of like a rigid medicine to me, and I still sort of like didn't truly understand it, but it was like a door got open. And in 2018, 3 years later, something super magical happened. I could already eat. I've already healed my gut. I could already eat. My acne and everything disappeared. My weight stabilized. I didn't have the anxiety to the extent I used to have. Didn't have to use EpiPen. And an email appeared in my inbox from Katie Silcox, who is the founder of the Shakti School, which is the school I have studied for a couple of years. And I didn't understand how it appeared in my inbox because I haven't applied for anything. It was just very kind of like, how is this possible? Like, how did this woman find me? And she was sending a masterclass or invitation to a masterclass, and there was a short little video of her singing with a harmonium and talking about the beauty of Ayurveda and feminine for medicine and teaching the non-traditional way of Ayurveda, and it brought me to tears. And there was something so magical in that moment that even though I know, like in the moment, I knew I didn't have the money to sign up for a year-long study. It was 300 hours the first year. I was like, and I was already looking after 17 sites, 17 restaurants across, because that's the industry I was in, hospitality. I was already looking after 17 sites, 17 restaurants. I already had a full-on career. I was like, how am I going to find a time to study, to be like in uni? It's not possible. But my soul was just like, you gotta do it. And I signed up, and within 2 months, I knew that I want to do the entire shebang, the whole thing. So I've signed up for the second year as well. And yeah, the rest is the history. I mean, Ayurveda really truly found its way over and over and over to my life. It felt like I'm not really learning anything. I don't want to say not anything new, but it felt like I'm coming back to myself. And the system of healing is helping me to remember who I am and the power within. It's a feeling I've never experienced in my life with any other system of healing or medicine. And yeah,
Mm.
that's the long way of saying how Ayurveda came to my life.
Yeah. How did Ayurveda find you? Really is the question then. And
Yeah,
and just for the listeners who don't know, what is Ayurveda and what does it consist of?
sure, sure. So as you said, Ayurveda is a sister science of yoga, and some tradition says is the mother of yoga. It's about 5,000 years old, and it originates in the ancient India. So Ayurveda, it's a word which comes from Sanskrit. Ayur means life, and Veda is science. So in a translation, it's a science of life. And there are different ways of how Ayurveda, the traditional form, is being practiced in the world today. And I do want to make the distinctions, the difference between it, because I've studied feminine form of Ayurveda. And that is a form which is rooted in flow, in intuition, in looking deeper and holistically into entire person rather than coming up with like a rigid sort of protocols. You know, there's a beautiful analogy one of my teacher used, and she said, look, feminine and masculine form of medicine is feminine. If you have a garden and you keep on getting insects or bugs or slugs into your beautiful lettuce, the masculine form of medicine would come and it would remove the slugs, and it would perhaps like put some sort of like a medicine onto the plants to prevent the slugs from coming in. But feminine form of medicine will ask, why are these slugs coming? What is like the deeper underlying root cause? How do I, what is actually happening beneath the surface? And so, yeah, feminine form of Ayurveda is very much intuitive. It's very much rooted in the emotional body, in the psycho-spiritual, and the holistic approach. And it's more about building awareness of where are you at and what do you need in this given moment, and then applying that awareness on a situation rather than the traditional form of Ayurveda, putting yourself or classing yourself to a certain body, mind type, and then tell you like, oh, it's 6 o'clock in the morning, so you need to get up and you need to do your Nadi Shodhana, you need to do your yoga practice, and you need to do X, Y, and Z. It's so much more, fluid and feminine, and looking at like, okay, where are you at in your life and what is it that you need?
And I love that because it really, for me, this intuitive flow of life is kind of a new language for me. For most of my life, it was this discipline and rigor and structure and scorecard in much more of a state. And don't get me wrong, those things are very helpful and they do play a part of my life in certain aspects. And what I have found more than ever is this opportunity to flow with my intuitive voice inside. And really the word I heard a lot through your share was the idea of listening.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Exactly. 100%. It's listening, really becoming still and observe and tap into the higher wisdom, the higher self, and the wisdom which is within. I tell all of my clients, I'm not a healer. I am not the one who heals you. I'm the one who guides you to your true self, to the truth, because we never see our blind spots, right? So it's like I'll give you the tools to be able to raise the awareness and look at yourself through the language of energies and elements, because that's what Ayurveda uses. And this is what is so fascinating, because rather than putting you into a box, it looks at, okay, everything is always in a flux and everything is made out of energy. I'm energy, you're energy. We're a unique expression of elements and energies.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're like a cluster of energy, and we're living in a greater clusters of energies or bodies of energies. If you think of the city or the culture you live in, Earth, you know, it's like it's madness. So you kind of look at all of that. You look at, okay, what is happening inside of me, and what are the energies that I'm made of, and what can I feel, and where do I feel it? And then you also look at the outside. So the outside is just as important as the inside, like being able to read what are the energetics I'm putting into my container through the five senses, through my relationship, through the music, the podcast I'm listening to, through the food I'm putting into my body, through the fabric I put onto my skin, and then what is my metabolic and digestive power to metabolize that and digest it. Because I think that is a very unique way of looking at healing oneself, because once you understand yourself and you're able to tap into the intuition, you're able to tap into like, okay, well, we all have certain tendencies, we all have certain body types in a way that, some of us are a little bit more temperamental, some people are more adventurous, some are really lovers of animals, they like their own space, some people love nature, they literally need to go physically into a nature to ground themselves, to be in a soft space. Other people, they need to be in places of happenings. They're like, I call them a pitta girls. They're like, they have to go and transform in life. they have to go and build, they're like, I'm on a mission and I'm gonna make it happen. I can't help myself. Like those kind of beings who go on a holidays and they can't just like lay by the pool or by the ocean and chill and enjoy the food. They're like, no, food is fuel. I'm here to explore.
Mm,
You see that, and we're all born with that. So understanding like, okay, I'm this type of a person, and the way how we are, the language that we use in our relationships and the way what we're choosing is all about awareness, just understanding who I am and like tapping into your emotions and into your feelings and feeling your feelings, understanding your feelings, not running away from it. And I feel that this is where in our modern life we really are struggling to, we're so disconnected from ourselves. Because the minute that you know who you are and what you need, and you give yourself the permission to give that to yourself, to receive, I promise you that you're not sick. There's no sickness. We, of course, will always go through challenges in life, but you will not need doctors. You will not have inflammation. You will not have stagnation in your life. You will not be depleted because you will be able to plan your day accordingly, because it doesn't, in Ayurveda we say it doesn't, it, and this is the difference between the masculine and the feminine. The masculine Ayurveda would say like, no, everybody should like rise at this time and do this and X, Y, and Z. And there are certain principles which are really helpful, but we're also living, Ayurveda began 5,000 years ago. We were so much more in tune with nature back then. Now we're living in the cities and it's just sometimes it's not possible. So the tools we have are very different to what we used to have back, 5,000 years ago. And awareness is key. That
mm-hmm,
really, it's all we're doing in my containers with women, awareness, and then raising awareness and then applying the awareness, understanding where am I at and what do I need. That's the
mm-hmm.
medicine.
Yeah, and I love that what you mentioned earlier about like we can't see our blind spots, and so oftentimes we are in this state of trying to do it alone, and having the willingness to have a mirror and reflection and being witnessed to be like, oh, did you notice that you said this, or did you notice that this correlates, and allowing someone the opportunity to be seen is a key part of what I hear you're saying.
Absolutely, 100%. And also, Scott, one of the things I'm realizing more and more the longer I'm on this journey of sharing this medicine and guiding women through their own journeys is that the importance of witnessing others' journey as well. The power of, especially for women, being in a containers where you feel safe and we are really tapping into healing the wounded feminine, healing the wounded masculine within us, because we have both feminine and masculine, of course, and being able to witness others going through breakthroughs and revelations, because it's almost like it gives you the permission of, I can also let go and I can also go in fully. And for women, we genuinely, really, truly heal just by being in each other's presence, by being with each other, by sharing, witnessing, touching ourselves as well. Touch is also important, but it can also be done in online spaces where we share our stories and our struggles, and we realize that we're not actually that different, And there is a beautiful liberation in that, to know I am not alone and I don't have to do this alone.
Yeah, I was watching that is so important. If you take nothing else from this podcast, take
Mm.
that you are not alone. I was listening to Peter Crone workshop last night with my partner Amber, and it was about loneliness. It was about just like overcoming hopelessness was the name of the workshop, and he talked about how loneliness is like the epidemic right now, and it stems from this contextual belief that people believe that they are alone, that they are separate. And in that then falls away this opportunity to be witnessed and be seen and be validated in the struggles that we have in this human experience. And I'm curious, you alluded to it earlier, and maybe you could touch on it now, is in your 20s, you were running multiple restaurants, 17, you said, like being managing these different
That was
properties.
that was in my 30s. So
Oh,
in the
okay.
20s, I was still sort of hopping around islands and I lived in 9 different countries. So hopping
Got
around,
it.
but in
Got
my
it.
30s,
Okay. So
I'm in
yeah,
my
so
40s now.
got
So
it. So in that, right, like you talked about your inability to digest your life. And could you speak a little bit about kind of the journey from awareness to feeling to digestion?
yes, of course, because looking back now, knowing everything I know, I genuinely wish that there was someone out there like me who would be able to piece the things together, because well, for me, everything started in a physical realm, but actually being able to piece it all back, I can see how the first layer was in the emotional body, and how, in Ayurveda, we say that we have this energy called Agni, and Agni is a Sanskrit word for digestive fire, which is in your stomach, Jatar Agni, but it's also a word for soul. And we say that we have to be able to digest everything we put into our container, not just the food, but the conversations, the relationships, the traumas, everything what we have perceived through the five senses. And I think that my first sort of the anxiety began when I was in my, early teenage years, but it sort of like accumulated. My first really big sort of a panic attack was when I was 20 years old, living in Holland, teaching kids. And that was kind of like my way of removing myself from my hometown and from where I lived, and trying to be like, okay, I need to run away from my family. I need to run away from these things that happened. I don't want to address it. I need to remove myself, and it's just gonna go away if I'm gonna be in this beautiful little, family, and I'm gonna be teaching kids, and I'm gonna be like surrounded by beautiful nature. It's gonna go away, and then I'm gonna move to Greece, and I'm gonna be even in more beautiful nature, and it's going to just disappear. And of course, it didn't disappear. What happened in Greece, that's where it started, the physicalities of the suppressed emotions, the undigested heaps and heaps of stuff which I have been carrying in my container since my early childhood and through my teenage years. Ayurveda does say that everything starts with energy, because everything is energy and emotions are energy and emotion. So the root cause is always in the emotional body. And so for me, not knowing that, of course, and then trying to work with my anxiety in sort of like, or maybe I just need to, go and swim in the sea, and maybe I just need to go and dance, because that's, I was in my early 20s, and it was the times where there were no smartphones, and it was a very different life back then. I was living in a small island, and it didn't work, it didn't work. I was losing weight, I had terrible acne, and the anxiety was worse and worse and worse. And then the best thing I knew I could do was to drink alcohol to suppress and numb the pain, and to smoke weed, and to do mushrooms, and to be just like, I'm just gonna numb it and it will go away. And it didn't,
Nope.
it didn't. It almost killed me in Maldives, right? Because I was suppressing it, suppressing it, suppressing it. And I was like overriding the wisdom of my body of telling me you have to slow down. And then also moving to London and placing myself in this like very masculine patriarchal like society of, okay, you function 7 days a week on a 24-hour cycle, not having the wisdom of, I'm a woman. I don't function on a 24-hour cycle. I function on 28-day cycle because of my hormonal cycle. Like, I'm ruled by the moon, by the feminine. I don't function every day the same. And I was constantly putting myself into containers and into situations where I had to be ready all the time. And I was overriding. I couldn't eat. I was terribly, terribly thin. I had really bad acne, and I had crippling anxiety. And I was like, it's okay. I have a glass of wine or two and I feel better. It's gonna be fine.
Feel
There were some
less.
really unhealthy, yeah, there were like really unhealthy patterns in me. And I thought that by going away for a holidays once a year, that's going to be the remedy. I thought that by having a secure job and earning certain money, that will be the remedy. I thought going to the gym and getting into shape, that would be the remedy. I thought being in a relationship with a man who loved me and living in a beautiful house, that will be the remedy. But the underlying cause, the root cause of the undigested emotional stuff wasn't addressed. And in Ayurveda, as we talked about it earlier before we started rolling, there is a pathway. It's called a samprapti pathway to a disease. And there are different stages of how the energies travel through your body. And if you are anything you put into your container, you have to be able to digest through that agni, through that fire, through that like your energy, which is on, the cellular level, it's your digestive fire, but on the deeper level, it's your soul. Like, are you
Mhm.
jumping out of bed first thing in the morning, like ready to take on the life?
Mhm.
And the truth is that I was so disconnected from myself. I didn't know who I was. And I felt something was really wrong inside, but I couldn't, like, I just didn't know. I wasn't aware. There was no awareness. And I was
Mhm.
doing like everyone else, what everyone else was doing. Let's go out for drinks, just smoke some weed and like, let's go and dance in a club. It's going to be fine.
Yeah.
And so the pathway to disease, there's different stages. And then if you ignore it for so long, it will travel, it will accumulate, it will deposit itself, and it will come up in a physical form, which actually that was my story in my late 20s and the early 30s, where the whole thing with the Maldives happened, and basically my body was like going into shutdown, and I cannot digest anything, no food, nothing. And I
Yeah.
remember that before the anaphylactic shock, we had this beautiful snorkeling trip, and we got into argument with my partner, and we were trapped in a massive tropical storm. I was like, oh my God, are we gonna die? We didn't die. It was great. But then as soon as we came to a villa, my system was so overwhelmed because of the emotional stress that it just went into complete shutdown.
Mhm.
And that's where the journey then began. Yeah.
Yeah, you talked a bit about, needing to process these emotions, and I'm curious if you'd be comfortable. I think you said it originated in your teens, and just to give perspective on the feminine journey and what it looked like for you to go back and heal these parts of you and then allow yourself to digest that and integrate that. I mean, as I sit here with you now, like your skin is luminous, like you live a different life. And so it speaks
Yeah.
to the journey that you went on and healed those parts of you that were wounded. And
Hmm.
and I'm curious because I know a lot of women can relate to these feminine journeys of what that looked like for you.
I think that, again, my journey was that I took it from the physical part because I wasn't aware of the emotional as much. I knew that, okay, I need to set certain boundaries in life, but it started in the physical, and it started with my digestion. It started with my acne, and it started with looking at what is it that I really want. And I think one of the key things for me was I knew I had to get out of the relationship I was in because I was not just lying to myself, but to the partner as well. He wanted to get married and have children, and I just felt like I want to go and travel and I want to explore. And I love this person dearly, but it just does not fit. And not honoring who I was and not honoring my needs. I've never been able to honor my own needs growing up. And so I always had to shape shift and like more than people please, and not knowing who I was, because it was always who I was not what was wanted or desired or accepted. And so I learned how to suppress that side of me. So when I began to heal my gut and I began to feel better physically in my body, there were of course constant, not constant, but it was happening quite often. A lot of grief would come up from somewhere, nowhere. Like as I healed the physical, my fire was getting stronger and stronger, and it almost like, okay, now we have the stamina to start like dealing with the emotions. So like the
Mhm.
emotions were coming up because of the journey and because of the experience in Maldives and being on that, on that bed with those 3 injections and like thinking I'm gonna die here in this beautiful on this beautiful island. I was like, no, fuck this. I'm gonna go fully in. And so I mastered the courage, and I have broken up with my partner. But then it was it was a beautiful, almost like ceremony, the way how we have ended our relationship. There was a lot of tears. It was really, really beautiful. And I love him so, so much with all of my heart still, even though he's got children now and he's married, and he lives on the other side of the world, but we remain friends. And having that liberation of being able to walk away from the safety I've had by living in the house, being in a foreign country, to go to something completely unknown and live on my own, and starting a new job as well, which was like the career I've had working for this corporation. It was almost like a second layer of healing was coming. And I think that that was the time where my first proper yoga class came to my life, and I started to go on a regular basis to a yoga studios, which was in Soho in London. And I met this wonderful teacher who just, again, just felt in such a deep alignment with me. And then I ended up going to a retreat with her, and there was some beautiful experiences, out of body experiences. I started to have these like, okay, like now my body is responding better to what I eat, and I don't need EpiPen anymore. I can go back to restaurants, and actually I can eat at restaurants. I feel better physically, and I'm doing yoga. I became really curious of like, okay, what else is out there? What else is out there? I want to, like, I'm hungry for knowledge, and I would have these experiences where my body felt safe enough to be like, okay, let's have like a deeper spiritual experience. So I had like out of body experience during a yoga class in Shavasana, which was absolutely crazy. I was like, what is going on? Like, what is this? And so that then led me just the curiosity, like exploring. And I have allowed myself to honor the inner voice of, you know what, you want to go and you want to travel, go for it. Just go crazy and book trips somewhere. Like that little inner child in me who always wanted to have these adventures of booking trips to unknown destinations and hop on a plane and not having any hotels booked or anything. I was like, okay, let's do it. And I found that in those moments, I had profound experiences of, I feel amazing in my body. I can see it on my skin. I feel so attuned and in touch with my spirit. And everything was like, like money was coming to me. And, like everything was just like, everything was aligning and everything was great. But I had these like in and out like moment. It was like a wave, So there was like a higher moment and there was a little bit of a dip. There was a higher moment, so there was a little bit of a dip. And every time I had a dip, I found myself on a plane to Bali, out of all places. It was the only place I kept on coming back to. Yeah, then eventually that's where my whole Ayurveda journey, where I started to then share Ayurveda with other women, started, which was in a Bali, which was post COVID,
Mm-hmm.
when everything went, as we say here in England, tits up. Everything just went crazy. And yeah, life just led me back to Bali, and I ended up sharing that medicine there for almost 3.5 years. So I almost feel that something divine and something greater was leading me to these spaces, and the courage I found through getting to know myself better and honoring those boundaries, and just like step by step, getting support in, like, I got a therapy. I got into therapy as well. So learning about myself a little bit more, understanding like, okay, what has happened during growing up wasn't okay, and it's okay, it's safe, you can feel all of the emotions, and just
Mm-hmm.
dipping in and out. So it was a really, I always say that I'm a late bloomer when it comes to healing and medicine, because it was such a long-winded process and still is. And the healing is happening in layers. It is like a layers of onions. So you just keep on discovering new parts of yourself. I took it the other way around. I went through the physical and then into the emotional.
Mm-hmm. Which makes sense, right? Like, and you spoke to it earlier, increasing your Agni gave you the stamina to do so. And the other word I hear is safety, right? Being
Mm.
safe in your physical container so your emotions can come through. Because so many of us, men and women, don't feel safe in our bodies. And therefore, the idea of us having the capacity to feel these emotions is like, it's like a good story, bro. Like, no way, and having the stamina to heal after that and integrate. Otherwise, and this is something I've noticed in myself and in parts of my journey where my body was like, bro, why would I even let you feel that right now? You're not going to integrate
Exactly.
it. So I'm just going
Exactly.
to keep holding it.
Exactly, exactly. You know what? And this is so true. Like, again, this is one of the things I teach my clients now as well. I say, look, we want to solve in time of depletion. We will not be solving anything when
Mm-hmm.
you are in a state of like chaos and everything is all over the place. We actually go to the practical grounding practices of, okay, let's look at the way we eat and what are the
Mm-hmm.
energies of the food you're putting into your container. And let's do the simple practices of breathing and pranayama. And this is what I love about the healing containers I provide. I put together for my women is, or for the clients who come forth, is it's very practical, They're very practical and grounded, but there is a lot of wisdom coming in from, like, from within. So some people can say like, oh, is that a woo woo? And I would say it's not a woo woo, it's just it comes from within, but it only can happen, the healing can only happen once the container, the physical container, is able to hold it,
Yes.
because your body will not allow. We're wired this way, you know. So if you're falling apart physically, it's the same way as like if you're driving a car. Well, you know, if you don't have the wheels and you don't have the like, we're not gonna go on a trip. Like, you know, we just have to first like put the fuel in,
Yeah.
like, you know, pump up the air in the wheels,
Right.
and then like, okay, open up the window, open up the bag, like, you know, get the gunk out, the ama,
Right.
the toxins,
Right.
and then just like, and then we can go on a trip, then we can have a look like where the hell are we actually going, you
Right.
know.
Right. The visual I got was like people are like, I want to fix my air conditioning. And it's like, bro, you don't even have doors.
Yeah, yes,
Yeah. Like,
yes, that is true. That's
right.
that's a good way of, you know, I like to use analogies a lot in my practice as well, because sometimes like we can so overthink
Hmm.
everything, you know. Again,
I've
it's all
never done
about the
that.
feeling.
I've never done that today.
Yeah. Me neither.
Just today, though.
Yeah.
You used the
Yeah.
word earlier about practicality, and I'd love to jump into that because I think there are, for the listeners, again, men and women who
Mhm.
who would love to institute some of these practices that are just practical, that are good, whether they go any further than this podcast. And I'll throw two out to start because they're my two favorite practices. And you can take it to whatever you want. My first one that I've known about, but you reinforced it when we spent some time together, was tongue scraping.
Yeah, I knew you were gonna say that.
Yeah, tongue scraping, and you can touch on ama and the tongue, and it was absolutely fascinating to me to see how the tongue is used in diagnosis of the internal landscape. And the other one is one of the most beautiful self-love practices that I've ever found, which is abhyanga, oil
Uh,
massage.
yeah. You know, this is so divine that you're mentioning that. We're actually going to be hosting an event, and I went to the studio today in London to check it out, and it's going to be all about Abhyanga and oil and self-massage, because it
Oh,
is such an instrumental practice, and I cannot tell you how, like, oh my God, there's so many beautiful practices in Ayurveda, and they don't take a very long time. But I would say
mhm.
yes, and I'm going to also share some of mine, like a small
Please.
tips, because they're like, we often think it's like this very complex thing that you need to put together, but it's not. Like, it's actually small little touches and rituals, like adjustments, right? So tongue scraping is amazing because, you know, the what happens actually is that you're able to, in Ayurveda we say that every morning, as a part of your dinacharya, or your dinacharya, it's your proclamation of what is it that you want to do in life, like how are you, it's your daily rhythm, it's your daily, I don't like the word routine. I much prefer rituals, but it's the way of how you show up consistently in your life, because then you create your life. So every minute, every second becomes a minute, every minute becomes an hour, that becomes a day, that becomes your week, your month, you know. So how are you showing up for yourself? Are you able to tap into the divinity? Where is the devotion to your sacred container of who you are? You've been given this beautiful one container, one life, and how are you approaching this sacred container? So one of the like pillar of the practices is to cleanse and clear the perception of the five senses, the perception of reality. And one of very important is your tongue, because on your tongue is basically your entire body is on your tongue. Like if I look at person's tongue, I can see exactly what's happening inside of their body, on a physical container, on a physical plane, on emotional plane as well. It's mind blowing. People should definitely look it up. You can see the entire body flip upside down on your tongue. So clearing ama, or the sludge, or the toxins, which would be physical, or it could also be emotional, first thing in the morning. That layer of like, usually we put like a little coating on the tongue. So clearing that and saying like, thank you very much. And also like looking at it and knowing the language of like the different colors, what are its meanings? Am I going through depletion? Am I going through inflammation, or am I going through accumulation in my body? Because I teach that in containers as well. So it's like literally your body is telling you this is what has been happening in your body whilst you were asleep. And then you're like, okay, well, thank you. And clearing that and not consuming it back again into your body, because it takes such, your body is like, it makes it puts so much effort into like cleanse you and clear you, and imagine that you just swallow it back in the morning. No, so scraping, tongue scraping, absolutely phenomenal practice. Abhyanga, of course. We say in Ayurveda that oil or sneha, which is a Sanskrit word, is also a word for love. So Abhyanga is you're covering yourself with warm oil, with warm love.
Head to
And
toe.
it's like, oh my God.
Head to toe.
It's like beautiful. Yeah, head to toe. Like it's such a beautiful practice of devotion and really spending time with yourself. And your skin is your largest organ, right? And so, like, you're massaging yourself, you're working with your lymph nodes. I teach women how to do a heart massage as well. You can do for digestion, belly massage, but like Abhyanga, just it's a really beautiful practice. That takes a little bit longer, but I love to do it all the time. Or as much, not all the time, but as often as possible, okay? 3 times per week, 4 times per week. The traditions say every day, of course, but again, I don't think that that's necessarily doable in a city, at least. That's my experience. A couple of practices I absolutely love to do is because of my history of my health. Now you know a little bit more about it. I love to work with my Agni. I love to work with my digestive fire. And so, like, non-negotiable for me really is to take a couple of deep breaths before I start eating and just to sort of
Mhm.
like
Oh, such a good
attune with
one.
the
Such a
energy
good
of the
one.
food, like it doesn't take that much. It's just being present with that which is in front of you. And I love to look at the colors of the food. I love to look at the textures. I love to smell the food as well. And
Hmm.
really just, I'm not one of the people who would put their hands on the food and like sending energies. I genuinely just give gratitude for all of the people and the animals who were present for and through the process of making this food, like
Hmm.
everyone and the soil. And the
Yep.
gratitude really kind of, it's like a preparation. It's almost like you're also sending signals to your brain to say, okay, I'm going to be eating.
Yep.
I'm
Yep.
taking 3 deep breaths. In Ayurveda, we say that in order to metabolize the food, we need to have, a prana, which is a life force. It's your breath. It needs to be present. And I just find that I digest food better,
Yes.
just by
Yes.
just by doing that. And there
Yes.
is more practices. You can, chew your food properly. I will say one more, which is
Yeah.
like,
Please.
oh, I think that we were discussing that, and I don't know. I think it was you who were like, "Oh, that doesn't never happen to me," and I was like, "Yeah, you just have to listen," and
First
that is
burp. First
yes,
burp. First burp, baby. For president.
it does happen every single time.
100% it does. And it's
It's
profound. It blew
it
my
is
mind.
profound. It is. It's literally your body. So you should be eating slow enough to be able to notice a first burp. And every single person has that first burp. It happens every single time. And it's your body's telling you, okay, I've had enough. That's just enough food for me to be able to digest. Please don't send any more down here.
Stomach is full. Let me leave. Let me let go of
Yes,
the
let
air
me,
so we can digest.
exactly. Let me please. I need to digest,
Right. I
right?
will say, I'm just going to say one thing because I have been guilty of this. The first burp will not occur if you're drinking soda water. You won't know. You won't have a damn clue.
Yeah. Well, soda water is like a no-no in Ayurveda,
Oh,
It's just
it's
like,
gotta
what are
be.
you
Gotta be
doing?
so vata inducing.
But exactly, but I do love
I
sometimes
love the
vodka water.
bubbles.
So I still drink it, and I
Yeah.
consider myself of being the embodiment of Ayurveda. But you do as much as possible, and whatever
Yes.
again, it's like where are you at and what's do you need and how strong is your digestion. So the first burp, really amazing practice because and if you're able to really honor that, and sometimes when you eat too quick, then obviously you will burp quicker than you're supposed to. So it's almost like a reminder of like, okay, this is a sacred ritual. You're taking
Hmm.
something from the outside and you are literally destroying it and turn it into your tissues. It's like it's an
Right.
alchemy. It's a sacred act. Like we're
Right.
all just eating, we're not paying attention to it, we're not connecting with the energies of the food. And so just doing that will really help people a lot with the digestion.
Oof. Yes. That
And yeah.
I'll just say like, and I was listening to Peter Crone talk about this yesterday because he's also an Ayurvedic practitioner, and he says just ask yourself this one simple question: Are you eating things that are human made or nature made? And
Mm,
there, what you just spoke on there is a phenomenon that most people take so for granted that use as the absolute like evidence that magic exists, that we eat food and it becomes the cells of our body.
I mean, it's mind-blowing.
Like it's
It's
absolutely
mind-blowing.
mind-blowing.
It's
And
crazy. It turns into your hair, into your skin, into like everything.
everything. And that's the question about the human made versus nature made of like, are you digesting Nestle's chemical factory fuckery? And that's becoming the cells of your body? Or are you digesting Mother Nature's symphonic orchestra of beauty? And there's no judgment, right? Like, I like ice cream. I had an ice cream cone yesterday. And,
Hmm.
I also like thanked it before I ate it in a
Yeah, and I have
field
so
playing
much to
with,
say about this. Yes.
please, please.
No, I would also say it goes even layer deeper because
Okay.
it's about everything is consciousness, Scott.
Yes, yes.
Like, I would rather eat consciousness of blueberries, organically grown blueberries, than a consciousness of some dead ass snack bought in a corner shop,
Right.
processed, which is dead. There's no life force in it. You're
Yes.
eating life force. We are energy and we are metabolizing that energy, and then that is giving you the container. So it's like, what sort of a fuel would you put into your car in order for the car to be functioning? Like,
Yeah.
wouldn't you want it to have the purest, the most divine oil in, for your car? Like, wouldn't you, when it comes to the way how we think and how we feel, of course it will impact me by what I put into my container. Just as hanging out with friends who are in alignment, with open hearts, and they're beautiful people, that is going to make me feel that it's going to be having an energetic imprint on my container in a certain way than being around people who argue, or being around people who are projecting their wounds onto others, or being around aggressive, people that will make me feel a certain way as well, because you're putting that into a container. Now, with food, it's the same thing. So, what sort of a consciousness are you putting inside you?
Hmm.
And then, if you do want to, I always say, just savor every bite. It's just as easy if you allow your because I also have clients who come to me and they have the perfect diet. They eat, like, they have all of the supplements. They eat honestly the most amazing, beautiful organic diet, and they are still struggling because I'm like, okay, but are you eating consciously? Are you actually
Right.
allowing your acne to know, like, this is what I'm eating? So, like, if you're having that ice cream, yeah, go for it, but enjoy every single bite of that ice cream and choose like a gelato, like Italian gelato, or choose
Right.
an ice cream which is actually like, it's an ice cream. It's not made out of crazy ingredients you can't even pronounce.
Right.
And that goes for everything, for ladies, even what they put
Cellulate
on their.
hydroxymo.
Yeah, it's like, what? Just like put some strawberries with, with some honey or sugar, and a milk into a mixer and into ice cream maker, and just make yourself an ice cream. Great, amazing. Don't feel guilty about it. Like, don't
Right.
consume the shame and the guilt, but also
Yes.
understand, you know, now we're talking about the 6 days of Ayurveda. When I'm craving certain foods and certain flavors, why am I craving those? Because each of those is tied up to emotions in Ayurveda. So,
Hmm. Mm.
if I crave the sweet, I crave sweetness and love in life.
Mm. God
So
damn.
if I'm
Okay, so
craving,
that's
yeah, I know
so
and Ayurveda is amazing.
so we're going into attachment styles now. No, I'm just kidding.
No, but we are actually, that's exactly what's happening. That's
Yeah.
exactly what's happening. Yeah. And a lot of women come to me for, I can almost always tell by listening to their stories. I can tell them, I know what you crave. There's
Wow.
a lot of women who are like having cravings for salty or sour foods. And it's
Of
not just exclusive to women, of course. I'm
course.
just saying women because that's who I work with. But it's really amazing because yeah, the beautiful language of Ayurveda, and like understanding the world and the symphony and the harmony of nature. And we are nature. It's
Hmm.
not that we're separate from nature.
Right.
We are nature. We are made out of these five elements, and they're
Right.
all around us. So just like understanding the language and then
Hmm.
being able to flow through life using the language is just so super helpful. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Different way of living.
Yeah.
Can I
And
share? Can I share one
please,
more practice
please,
actually, just for
as
your
many as you
listener?
want.
Because I'm like, okay, we talk about the tongue scraping and Abhyanga, which is great. We talk about Agni,
Yeah.
right? Taking a couple of deep breaths or three deep breaths and
Yeah.
listening for the first breath. And I would say one of my like non-negotiables, absolutely non-negotiables, it's Nasya oil.
Mm,
Nastia oil, it's something you put up into your nose first thing in the morning,
okay.
and it lubricates your passageways, but also your nose. It's door to your consciousness as well. So of course, there's a layer of you're
Okay.
connecting the oil, it's herbal oils, and you're connecting to and you're cleansing the doors to your consciousness.
Yeah.
So you're putting love, sneha
Yeah. Oh,
through your through your nose
man.
first thing in the morning. You're not just cleansing, we're not just like doing anything in Ayurveda, it's just like for the sake of it. There's always this beautiful esoteric story of why we're doing something. And it's all of this stems from traditions which are 5,000 years old,
Right.
and they're effective and they work. It's just beautiful. It really invites you to open your heart to more devotion in your life, open your heart to more love, open your heart
Right.
to more. It is a life-changing holistic science, really. Like
Yeah.
small little dabs and your life will change.
I love the way you live your life as an integration of it because, a lot of people think about Ayurveda and they're like, oh, you got to eat dal and you got to eat, khichdi only. And it's like, no,
No,
like, like, yeah,
that's not what I
sure.
do.
Right. Like
Sometimes.
I want to drink the soda water, once in a while. And I want to have like I have ice cream in my freezer. I have two different types of ice cream and they've been there for weeks. And that's okay. I don't eat it every day. And when
Mhm.
I want it and I'm present with it and I chew my food and I love every bit of it. I really appreciate the aspect of Ayurveda, which is deepening devotion to loving myself, life, consciousness, this beautiful gift that we have to experience here as the human experience. And I'm curious for my own self because I want to start doing this and love on my nose more is can I get Nassia oil at like Banyan Botanicals or where would you suggest?
Yes, yes, absolutely. I would say that's two of my favorite oils. And actually, I have at the moment I'm using Nassia, but I also absolutely love, love, love Aussie oils. And we can maybe like put a link
Yeah.
in the podcast or something below. They're absolutely amazing, incredible oils, handmade, ethically made. There's no nastiness in it, and they're one of the best oils I've ever used. Like I've tried so many different ones in my journey of Ayurveda, and they are accessible in the US widely, in the States, and also in Europe. And yeah, I would recommend to use those Banyan botanicals or Aussie oils.
Okay. How do you spell the
They're
second
really
one?
beautiful. Aussie oils, OSI oils, Aussie
Got it.
oils.
Okay.
Mm.
There are two places that I'm tempted to go, and I'll let you pick which one based on what you think would be more, whether you want to say helpful to the audience or honoring to your story. And those two, and they're very different, but they are both deaths of the old.
Hmm.
The Seychelles Islands or your beloved Trixie.
I think Seychelles. I think
Okay.
that yeah.
Yeah,
A Trixie is I can't cry. I don't want to cry.
I hear you. I get it.
Trixie is yeah,
It's a bit fresher.
she is, yeah, it's still fresh, it's still fresh.
Yeah.
It's only been 3 months, so
Okay, so the Seychelles
Seychelles.
Islands. Tell me about COVID.
Seychelles Islands, a place which was meant to be a 4-week holiday, turned into 6 months of wild, wild, dark night of a soul, and me being in complete synergy with nature. It was the most incredible and beautiful experience of my life to this date. Absolutely incredible and amazing. Funny enough, someone had told me way before I ended up in the Seychelles, maybe like 2 years before I was picking my next destination where to go, and this person told me, I think Seychelles would be really good for you. And I looked at the person, I was like, Seychelles? No, I've been to Maldives. I almost died, and Seychelles, Maldives are kind of a similar vibe, even though they're completely different. Seychelles is in Africa, Maldives is obviously it's an Indian Ocean. It's a bit further away, closer to Asia. And I was like, nah. And then in 2020, during first wave of COVID, I had this very transformative week where I had major health scare in my womb space. I broke up with my partner who was unfaithful and who I wanted to start a family with. and I was made redundant from my over a decade long career, which I have like devoted everything to. And everything happened in one week. And it was like Tuesday was this, and Thursday was that, and a Friday was like the last news. And I was like, what is happening? And we were all sitting in our flat in London, and the whole country was in a lockdown. And I remember going to have a procedure in my womb space because it was like, okay, it's turning into cancer. We need to stop it. And knowing the wisdom of Ayurveda and also feeling like, what me? I'm the one who studies this. Like, how is this happening to me? And then the deeper underlying knowing of, well, I have not been necessarily honest with myself. Like, I've healed my physical container and I felt great and I had a good career and I had a boyfriend and I had the money and everything was like, yay. And there was still a deeper longing of, I want to go and travel. And I feel that this whole Ayurveda I'm learning, it speaks to my soul, and I'm not doing anything with it. So I was very conflicted within myself, which actually resulted, I believe, in this health scare. However, fast forwarding this couple of months later, once I dealt with the closure of the relationship, once I dealt with the procedure, once I dealt with a closure of my career, I jumped on a phone with my close friend here in London, and she's like, "Hey, I've also been made redundant. Like, let's go for a holiday. Where can we fly? We can fly somewhere. Like it's time to enjoy ourselves." And I was like, "Sure, yes. Where are we gonna go?" And the first place was Jamaica, which was where my then set ex-boyfriend was from. So I was like, not gonna go to Jamaica. I've been to Jamaica, not the country I need to go to right now. What are the other options? And the other option was Norway, but I'm like, no, it's December. I need to go somewhere warm. And I'm just literally was like, I don't know who I am. I've lost my entire identity. I'm no one's boss. I'm no one's, I had another episode of like not necessarily being on the best terms with my family. So I'm like, I'm no one's daughter. I'm no one's boss. I'm like no one's girlfriend. I don't know who the heck I am. So need to go somewhere on a beach and sun. And Seychelles popped up as the only third option. So it was Jamaica, Norway, or Seychelles. I was like, Jamaica, no. Norway, no. We're gonna go to Seychelles. And so we packed up our bags. We jumped through all of the hoops of, having all of the tests and everything. And we landed in Seychelles after like 27 hours of travels. And I genuinely thought I was gonna go for 4 week holiday. I did not think it's gonna turn into 4 year long journey of my like, it wasn't a carry-on suitcase, but it was a very small suitcase where I had like 3 pairs of bikinis, 2 sarongs, one like a dress for Christmas dinner, yoga mat, and my laptop and like the socks maybe and like it's like few like very few
Ring
things
scraper.
and a tongue scraper yes actually yes and some of my essential oils and yeah I remember for like the third week in the Prime Minister of England basically came on a national TV and was like, everyone has to come home immediately. We're coming into a second wave of lockdown. And my friend who was with me there at the time, she was buying a house in London. So she was like, I can't stay. I actually need to leave. So she was on a computer as I'm standing there in the moment of, I cannot go back home. Back home, back to London? Like, what am I going back to? We're in this paradise. And anyone who knows anything about Seychelles is just, it looks like a postcard. It's so beautiful. It's actually like, what? And so you can see the Milky Way every single day, every single night. And like the birds and the animals there and the food, it was just like, what is happening? This was such a contrast from everything I've experienced and then going through the heartbreak and still going through this whole emotional, digestion of everything I've experienced the last couple of months. It was really, I felt really held by the island. And so I remember flipping a coin because my friend was asking me, well, I'm on a computer right now. The flights are going every second. You have to make a decision. And I was like, oh my God, oh my God. I grabbed a coin and I was like, I'm just gonna flip a coin and that's what I'm gonna fucking do. And I kid you not, by the time the coin came down, I knew the answer. I was like, I want to stay. And I just looked at the coin and I was like, yeah, I'm supposed to stay. And I said to her, I'm gonna stay. And I walked into the gardens and I lay down in a hammock and I had the biggest cry of my life. Like I just let everything go. And I'm like,
Mhm.
no, it's time for me. It's time for me. And it was
Mm.
incredible because it was in those 6 months on the island where really there were no tourists. I was the only tourist there. There was like a handful of like lost kind of travelers. It was a very small island. It really was like a Robin Crusoe sort of experience, you know? And all I had was this laptop and my yoga mat, and I had to deliver case studies for my Ayurveda school in order to graduate and get my diploma. And I needed to work with two women for 3 months and to deliver like results. And because I was going through my own process as well, and because I was surrounded by this beautiful nature, I was walking barefoot. I literally, my food was to go on a garden, pick a banana, passion fruit, go to the local fisherman by foot because it's an island with no cars, there's no roads. Everything is barefoot or you're cycling on a bicycle. So going to the fisherman and say, can you please catch me a fish? Because I want to eat something other than papayas
A
and
banana.
bananas. And like, I'm like sick of it by now. And so, yeah, like I was devoting myself to all of the healing practices, like everything really when I was like, I'm just going to lock in again. I've done it once before. I I've healed my gut, and now it's time again. Like I want to heal my womb space and I want to heal my heart. And it's okay. This is happening for a reason, and it's gonna all make sense one day because I didn't know how long am I gonna stay there. Yeah, I took about 10 women on into one-on-one coaching containers, and I was like, hey, would you be for free like 3 months my case study? And I just really need it. And because there were so many people who were going through so many difficulties and challenges, it was really easy. And we were getting some incredible results, like incredible. We were reversing eating disorders, getting people out of depressions, healing endometriosis. It was incredible, incredible. And every single one of these women told me, this is exactly why you're on this island. And this is
Mm.
exactly what you need to do next.
Mm.
And that's really where the alchemy of Ayurveda was born. I hop on
Mm.
a plane to Bali. In a 6 months' time, I landed in Bali. The borders had shut for another 2 years, and the rest is a history. I just fully embrace where life has led me and, really lived my life for the most part from my heart. And even though it wasn't always easy, it of course was difficult, but I look back to it now and I think it was really divinely orchestrated and I was led to have these experiences and it was perfect and I would do it all over again, all over again. I feel like the luckiest person in the whole universe, really.
Mm. Yeah,
Mm.
the pictures were incredible.
Yeah. I had my own bird who would flew to my window every single day, like a wild bird. I had my own fish who would come to me like every single day on the beach.
Wow.
We snorkeled and dived with sharks and it like I had two massive tortoises. They were called Papaya and Mango. They would come to my backyard every day and I would feed them with like lettuce and with banana. It
Oh
was
my God.
amazing. It was really incredible. It was unforgettable experience. And I think that even the locals would come to me and say, we've never experienced the island like this.
Mm.
This is so new to us as well. And the island really helped me in my biggest heartbreak and in my biggest
Yeah.
sort of like reinvention of myself. Like I really
Right.
burned down to the ground and the phoenix just rose from the ashes. It really happened for me that way.
Incredible.
Yeah.
What a dream. What a treat. And the thing that I really took away from that is you followed your gut. Your intuition was, I'm going to stay.
For sure.
And
Yeah.
then reality aligned to it.
Yes, this is why the digestion is so important. Look, in
100%.
Ayurveda, I'm telling you, like a lot of the time women come to me and they think we're going to be talking about food, what to eat and what not to eat.
Right.
And we always talk about the gut. We always talk about Agni. It's always the first pillar, the food, sleep, sex.
Right.
There's three pillars in Ayurveda. So we're always going to talk about the food, always about Agni. But it's never about the food. It's always about, how are you nurturing your gut and are you able to follow it? And
Yes.
are you able to are you able to be still and listen, raising the awareness and applying the awareness? Because then honestly, everything always aligns. When people come to me and
Right.
they tell me, oh my God, you're so lucky, you've had such an incredible life. I'm kind of like, I don't know if I'm lucky. It's not being lucky. I think that every single one of us can have those type of journeys. It's about really having the courage to follow your gut and just to
Yes.
go after what it is that your soul is guiding you to experience. And
Yes.
for me, it was like, I think that's the universe shook me in 2020 when I thought, I'm just going to stay in this company and I'm going to get pregnant and I'm going to be in this relationship and this is what I'm going to do. The universe was like, no, that's not what you're supposed to be doing. We're going to shake you up because it's not in alignment with who you are anymore.
Right.
And you have different, there is a greater quest to go and explore. And so,
Mm.
yeah, that's what happened. Yeah, that's Seychelles and
Ah, so good.
beautiful, incredible portal for me. Yeah.
Oh, I
And it's
love it.
always funny that I feel that people will always come to you and they would tell you things where in my life, it's always like, even when I was first told about Bali, a friend of mine came to, I was living with someone in Brixton at that time, and they had a visitor from New Zealand. And the woman is telling me, I think that you would love Bali. Like Bali would be so amazing for you. And I was like, Bali? Why would I go to Bali? It's like so far. Like I was never sort of like I felt like I'm not drawn to. It's weird because as a kid I thought of going to Asia and that was my big dream. I was never drawn to South America, but
Right.
Bali really genuinely it never came to my radar. And then I ended up flying in there, and then it's just like it became such a huge part of my life.
Yes.
And it
I
was
mean,
a
it's like
space
me
where
and
I'm like,
Maui.
I keep on coming back to, and then I've done plant medicine on that island. And it's really, I feel like, okay, something like me and this island is not the first time we're doing this. Like genuinely
Yeah.
feel called to that, which is the same with London. I'm just an island girl. It's just on different islands,
Yes.
different,
I'm an island boy. I
different
mean,
weather.
Maui and Hawaii was never a part of the plan ever, not even on the ray. I'd been there
Mhm.
once, I broke up with my girlfriend on the flight home. It sucked, but then I was invited back here, like, and I feel like an island boy. Holy moly, like, and I own it now. Barefoot pretty much everywhere. Certain aspects of the matrix. I don't I like wearing slippers in the grocery store, but that's about it.
Yeah.
You
Yeah, I
know.
know. I understand you. Yes, I
Yeah.
understand you.
Well, this has been an absolute treat, Nicola. Thank you
We've
for
been
taking the
talking for
time.
a long time. Wow. Thank
Yeah.
you so much for being such a great space holder and just it was really easy to actually talk to you. This was
Yeah.
really nice. Really, really nice.
Thank you.
I
I love getting to do this with people, to hear your story and to share it and share your offerings to the world, and your wisdom and love. It to me is one of those examples of me following my intuition,
hmm
and I, as you were sharing that last thing, the name of this podcast hit me. It's the courage to listen,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
in that bravery lies a life beyond beauty that we can never fathom. And so I
Yeah.
appreciate your courage and willingness to listen to your inner knowing and to live that courageously.
Oh, thank you so much. And likewise, likewise. Yeah. It's been absolute honor and pleasure to be on this podcast. Thank you so much for allowing me the space for listening to my journey and everything, and for also, being such a beautiful instrument of and a tool for other people to learn about
Mm.
different modalities. And it's very inspiring, to be able to listen to other people's journeys and then what are the tools that was helpful for them. And then again, knowing that, hey, this is a community, you don't have to do it alone. And there are
Yes.
people who just like, you just go and pick what resonates with you, and don't
Right.
question it. Sometimes it
Right.
makes no sense. You're like,
Right.
what?
Right.
And like one of my teacher, actually, she's American Indian and she laughs because she's like, Nicola, I feel like on the inside, you're just a brown girl, like on the outside,
Yeah.
obviously I'm white as a wall,
Yeah.
from Czech Republic,
Right.
but she's like
I
on
feel
the
that. I feel that
inside,
entirely.
you're a brown girl. And it's
Yeah.
crazy because I have a lot of Indian people in my life who come to me for the medicine of Ayurveda,
Yeah.
and it's just like, and they are most of the time brought to tears. They
Mm.
would tell me like, you remind me of the medicine of my grandmother and great grandmother, and
Wow.
you're sharing it in such a way that it's not the way how I remember, like this rigid kind of, it's very feminine and it's with a lot of compassion and it's through storytelling, and but it's also grounded and practical. But
Yeah.
it's like it does something to my heart and to my soul, and it's just a theme now. I've realized, like, I've moved into a house. I'm living with someone who we've had a consultation, and it's, her roots are in India, and
Mm,
she's like, you remind me of my home. Like,
yeah.
I've already made changes because, like, you brought this into a house.
Wow.
Like, so it's just going beyond the physical, not questioning, and just following your heart, and just knowing, like, hey, it is what it is.
So, for all the listeners who want to know, where can they learn more about you and your offerings?
Yeah, sure. Well, I've got a Instagram called The Alchemy of Ayurveda. I'm available for one-on-one coaching or guiding spaces. I'm also available for just tasters of consultations. So I do each with someone who's a little bit like, I'm not sure if I want to do this. It's 90 minutes consultations, and give them the whole shebang of, like, this would be really helpful. In London, obviously, in-person events. If you have any audience in London, I would
I
love,
do.
love, love to see them for amazing. I'm going to be guiding a beautiful event and workshop in Fulham-based yoga studio, the Lighthouse. That's a new space, and there will be some regular workshops there as well. And yeah, I'm just fine-tuning a space for a regular practice. So online consultations and in-person consultations in London, and then online guidance. And I will have this summer a group container for women
Beautiful.
to connect with, it's called The Art of Becoming, to connect with the
Love that.
room space. And it's all
Love
about
that.
creation. It's all about living your life from your heart in alignment with your room space. And I'm very, very excited about it because it has been sitting in my computer for a few months, and I have
Mhm.
been putting it off and off and off because I just couldn't find the right time,
Yeah.
and it just keeps on coming back. So that's going to be end of the summer coming out as
Love it.
well.
Love it. Look forward to seeing it. Meet
Yeah,
the
thank
world.
you so much.
Awesome. Thank you,
Oh,
Nicola. This
thank
was
you, thank you,
wonderful.
thank you. This has been really wonderful. Oops, this has been really, really wonderful. I
Yeah.
really appreciate you.
Thank you. Same. Same.
Yeah,
Thank you for being here and sharing your gifts. And thank
thank
you to
you.
the listeners for giving us your time and attention and presence. And until next time, aloha.